What is up, Pacer Nation? Welcome to the Pacer Pulse podcast, the heartbeat of Indiana basketball.
Welcome, welcome.
And today I kind of wanted to do just a little mood check on what do we think is the real ceiling for this season. And just kind of going off of this 21 game sample size we've had so far, I think that's a good enough sample to kind of get an idea of what we can expect from this season going forward. So, and what our ceiling could be given what our record is now. We're 4-17. Yes, I know last year we started off 10 and 15 and ended up making the NBA finals, but we all know this season is way different from that. And we don't have Tyrese, of course. We don't really have a great center rotation, even though they've been playing better lately. We've had so many injuries. So it's very drastically different from last year where we just had to get a little bit healthy last year, and with Tyrese, anything was kind of possible, and we saw that happen. But I think this year is obviously clearly different. So I just kind of wanted to talk about the ceiling of this season right now, and the fact that coming off of the game last night, where it just seemed like our guys were so dejected and didn't have any energy out there. We just let the Cavs basically do whatever they wanted. They got every single rebound. It was just ugly to see, and I'm starting to get a sense that we're not gonna really try to win like full out. And I'm getting more and more of the sense that I think we're not even gonna do any trades, especially any trades that could help us win this season. I mean, unless we could strike hot on like a trade where we can get a high caliber starting center, I could see that possibly, but unless that just falls into our lap somewhat, or we're able to find a partner that's willing to trade and a center that would make sense for our team, I kind of think we just end up staying put and we're not going to really make any moves. And I'm starting to believe we're not going to really try to just push for the playoffs full heartedly. I know they're not going to lose on purpose, but there was just so many questionable things from last night's game that kind of put me in that headspace of like, all right, what is the ceiling of this season? And also just looking around the league, looking around the Eastern Conference, where we are right now in terms of the standings. I just uh I just think at best, the ceiling of this team is probably making the ninth or 10th seed at best. And I only say that because they're like, okay, the Bulls right now are 9-11. Who's to say we can't go on a run and catch the Bulls? I don't think that's unrealistic. But after that, or before, at ninth seed is the 76ers. At 10-9, Boston's like 11-9. The Hawks 13-9, Cavaliers 13-9. A lot of teams are in the kind of the same range there. That is pretty interchangeable, but we would literally have to win like 7 games, and then these teams have to really fall off. We could always go on a pretty big win streak. I think that's always possible too. Just like how Matherin was trying to talk about why can't they go on a 10-game winning streak, and these guys aren't just going to fold and not play hard. Even though last game definitely didn't really show that, but this team has a little more fight in them than what they've been showing, and we know what they're capable of, but I'm starting to think that's probably the ceiling of what our team could actually reach this year. And really that's predicated on the fact that we're 4-17 right now. We are back to being tied for pretty much the last spot in the East right now. The Wizard and us, like the Wizards are 3-16, we're 4-17, but pretty much interchangeable because the Nets won last night. So they're a half game above us now too. And it's just not pretty, and obviously there's a lot more season left. We're only about a fourth of the way through. So anything can happen, but I'm starting to think more and more that that's kind of our ceiling is, hey, at best I think we're going to end up reaching maybe the 10th seed, ninth seed, sneak into the play-in. And sometimes that's all you need, but I think that's just me being even optimistic at this point. Because even at the 11th spot, we had the Bucks there who obviously if Giannis goes down, that team is pretty terrible. They don't have anyone on that team that can score really outside of Giannis, especially creating their own shots. especially with not having Giannis there to like kind of have like defenses gravitate towards and really focus on him. And we see Miles Turner's really struggling there. He's had a couple games, but other than that, he's having his worst averages since his rookie season, I think. And Ryan Rollins, he's good, but he's just coming onto the scene. He's not a guy that's going to carry a team on his back by himself. But even them, they're at the 11th seed right now. We're not going to probably pass them unless something catastrophic happens and Giannis is out for the rest of the year and or misses long periods of time again. So we got to contend against that even if we want to make it to like the 10th or ninth seed. And that's even if the Bulls start collapsing, which they kind of have already. But and then like we have the Charlotte's a little better, but they've lost to some pretty bad teams. They're 6 and 15. They're in the 12th spot right now. It's just as I was looking over it, I just think more and more that is kind of what our ceiling is going to be this year as a team. Hope for the best that we somehow get either ninth or I think more realistically 10th. I think ninth would be a pretty tough task. I mean, it's not impossible. I know this team could do it, but especially if guys get healthy. But just the fact that we got Obi Toppin out till February, and as we've seen, our bench has been pretty awful. And he's just such a huge part of that. It's been helping that TJ's been back, who's been playing awesome lately. But we need that other guy off the bench that can potentially go off for a 25-point game or have those kind of games that make huge impacts the way that Obi Toppin can do. And you got Obi Toppin out there with Isaiah Jackson, TJ McConnell. That's pretty solid, in my opinion. Uh, like a bench unit. Throw in Jarris Walker or Shepard. And I'm counting when Neesmith is back by that time, too, of course. I mean, maybe by then, maybe once we get Neesmith back, get Furphy back, this team's going to look a little better, too. But I still think even with those guys coming back, it's going to be hard to envision us getting to the ninth seed. And I'm not trying to put a cap on what we could do. It's just, I think realistically, that's what we can expect at this point. And it's just because we started off so awful. And I think it's because, too, our offense has just been continued to be so dreadful. I was checking our stats, our team stats this year. Our offensive rating right now is like 108. And last year it was 116.5. So that is a huge drop off compared to last year. And of course, you're going to see that because of Tyrese being out for the whole year. But my goodness, that's awful. And then defensively, we're not too far off from what we were last year. Like it's 117 right now, and compared to last year, it's 114. And obviously, different sample sizes because we only played 20 games. But from what we can go off of right now, I mean that's pretty drastic difference in offense. And as we've seen from this team all year, shots are not falling. I mean, we've had games at least where we've hit some shots, but it's just been such a huge part of why we've struggled so badly this year. The offense just continue not to make shots. We're not getting as easy of looks. And what's crazy is our pace is even faster than last year. And who would have thought without Tyrese? And I know it's only 21 game sample size, but the fact that we're playing a little faster, even though it doesn't seem like that would be the case, is pretty baffling in my opinion. But it's just I think the whole league as a whole is playing faster, so that kind of explains it. Because I think every year the entire league gets faster and faster, and you got to keep up with it. But that was pretty eye opening. So we're still keeping a good pace. It's just we're not efficient. We're not shooting efficiently. We're not hitting shots. We're like one of the bottom two 3-point shooting teams in the NBA right now. It's ugly. At least we've shown signs on the defensive end here lately. And I know we're starting to get some things kind of figured out in terms of the rotation, with having Jackson coming off the bench. I would almost stick with that for a good while and just see how that works out, especially to like solidify some of these roles. So the guys know what to expect. They know what to come in and what their job is, what to do. And the way Jay Huff's been playing lately, I want to continue to give that man his flowers for how he's been playing lately. It's been incredible. Leading the NBA in blocks per game, or he's right behind Wembanyama. I don't know how that works, but he's top three and just finally starting to knock down some threes. This is what we've all envisioned. And just giving us that aspect and that play style that we kind of lost with Miles Turner. And honestly, obviously, Jay Huff's not going to go off for 30 points. I know Miles could do that, like, maybe twice in a season or something like that, but he's not gonna have maybe as big a highs as Miles, but he's still gonna add that element to the lineup that we had when Miles was there. Someone that can protect the rim, that can shoot from 3. He's actually just as good of a passer as Miles at times, like, yeah, he gets a little sloppy at times, but Jay Huff, his passing has really impressed me at times. And like I said, I am not saying Jay Huff's better than Miles Turner, and I'm just saying he provides a lot of the same elements, of course, the same style of play. So I think it makes sense to stick with him in the starting lineup for a little while, especially if he continues to hit threes and block shots like this. And we can build that continuity. And then we get Neesmith back in that starting lineup with Matherin, Siakam, Nemhard. It's going to help the defense even more, even though it's been improving already. And even just having Neesmith, who's been struggling really bad from the field, of course, this year because he's being asked to do so much. He's not an off to the dribble scorer at all. That's just not his game. Yeah, he can do it some games where he gets hot, but asking him to create off the dribble it's just not gonna end well, in my opinion. And I love Smith, not trying to hate, but he was like one of the best 3-and-D players in the NBA. And those are highly coveted players. Every team wants those, every team needs them. But when we ask him to do too much, that's just not his role. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But he's not a guy that's gonna create any sort of shots off the dribble. So, hopefully, with him coming back now, he could kinda settle back into that role, or, like, when he does come back, I mean, he can kinda settle back into the role that he kinda had last year where, "Hey, we're gonna ask you to be the 4th man on offense, spot up, take these threes, these stationary threes, pull up on the fast break like he can do from 3, run out in transition. Don't try to do too much off the dribble. I mean, unless you have a clear, path to the paint or, just nothing too complicated or out of his capability as of right now as a player, and hopefully that could kinda help pigeonhole him back into the spot that he kinda had last year, and it just kinda balances things out again a little more. I think we're gonna see a better shooting Nesmith when he comes back after he kinda breaks off some of that rust he's been building up because he's been hurt, but I think that's gonna help a lot with, just having Matherin back and him kinda having that same type of role he had last year, and I don't know. I mean, maybe I could be wrong, but I just think the ceiling right now would probably be the 9th or 10th seed on this season. And then you have to really question if that's worth even going after. I know I've kind of harped on this podcast where I don't think it's good to lose on purpose. I think it's bad. I think it's just we've seen the Sixers do it for so long. Yes, they have some good young talent now. We've seen the Pistons do it, but they're awesome right now. So I mean, maybe it's in our best interest to I guess, kinda lose this year considering how how miraculous it was that we traded for our pick back before Tyrese got hurt in the finals, and who would ever predicted that? The fact that we were able to execute that before all that happened and this happens, it was almost like it was preordained to kinda give us a safety net to fall back on and just really have a bad year if we had to. Guys get to develop, build some more skills. Nimhard gets to run the point. Matherin gonna get a bigger opportunity, develop his game even more, show what he can do and why we need to bring him back on this team. Show that we need to bring in a center somehow. Maybe we can use Walker as a trade chip. Piece together some other contracts to do that, and maybe like a pick. Whatever we got to do. I just don't. I know there's been a lot of chatter that Matherin's the best trade chip in that term, like in terms of that. I don't believe in that. I don't see why you give up on a player like Matherin who can just score from all 3 levels like that. It's still baffling to me because those players are few and far between. He's a good rebounder. He's improving on the defensive end. And even though his turnovers are still high this year, and he still needs to improve on working his way through screens and whatnot and navigating screens on the defensive end for sure. But going back to his passing, he has shown some very good reads on the passing end. Like he's finding guys in the corner. Like last game, he hit Jay Huff with a no look pass, who just happened to not catch it. Maybe he threw it a little too hard, but just the vision he's had this year, it's definitely there. Like you see the passing could be there. And a lot of times his turnovers are just offensive turnovers, honestly, or like the ball. he's going up and he gets fouled or he's trying to draw the foul and it goes off him and it's a turnover, or he gets an offensive foul when it would normally be like, a defensive foul for like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander who's going to the free throw line. Not trying to get into that. I'm just saying, some guys get a better whistle. And you've seen a drastic fall off in that in the recent games of Mather, where it's like, oh, he was getting all these calls. He was drawing so many fouls at one point, and then all of a sudden he's just getting none every game. Like, that part doesn't make sense to me, but I digress. But I'm just saying, we've seen the improvement. We've seen that Matherin can be a huge part of this team going forward. I think it would not make any sense to trade him. I think there's other ways to bring in a starting quality center to this team. And then you add in a first round pick who could possibly be like a Cam Boozer, who would probably fit perfectly with his team, with his playmaking ability, his rebounding ability that we need desperately, his offensive creation, his shooting, his size. I just imagine like a crazy lineup of Halliburton, Nemhard, Matherin, Siakam, Cam Boozer out there. Yeah, he doesn't have the size to play center per se, I would say, but in some small ball lineups, to roll out Cam Boozer next to Siakam and just have that many guys that could pass, create, and guys that could score and be a threat. I mean, that'd be a scary team. And I think he makes a lot more sense than like an AJ DeBonsa. I'm not really for that for him. I mean, obviously we would take him. Let's say if we end up with a third pick and he's there, we're probably going to take AJ DeBonsa, for the talent and the skill, just the talent level wise. I mean, you just don't pass on that, but I don't think that's what we would go with. And then there's like Caleb Wilson for North Carolina, who's looked really awesome, a big man, 6'10", could really provide a lot too in terms of like what Cam Boozer does. But Caleb Wilson's probably projected to be a better defender, but Cam Boozer's not a slouch either. But offensively, Cam Boozer has the edge over him. But it's still early in terms of prospects. But just two guys that I think would be perfect picks for us if we do get a high draft pick. And it would make a lot of sense in terms of what we need. And it's just, I don't know. That's why I do question if the direction of trying to make the ninth or 10th seed would be worth it in terms of the long run. I mean, I guess it still helps with keeping that winning culture. But then again, it's like there's not many opportunities you're going to have after this year to have such a high shot at a high draft pick. I mean, especially once Halliburton comes back, we're expected to win at a high level again. Who knows the next time we're going to have a chance at a top 5 pick? I mean, I don't even know if we've had that in our franchise history. I know we haven't had a number 1 pick, but I don't remember the last time we've had a top 3 pick. And even Matherin, when we picked him at 6, that was the first time we picked that high since like Rik Smits, I think. I forget what he got drafted, but that was the highest pick we've had in that amount of time, and which is crazy. So, it's do you take advantage of this opportunity that's presented in front of us this year? You ride it out. You just try to develop guys and hope next year everybody comes back a little more skilled. Bring back Matherin. You somehow find a center out there on the trade market, or you draft one possibly to develop, I don't know, outside of just our top pick. And then you add maybe a Cam Boozer or uh, man, I'm forgetting his last name now. I'm spacing on his last name. For North Carolina. You guys know who I'm talking about, but if you can get a shot at one of those guys, I don't know. The sky could be the limit for this team, especially going forward into the future. And even getting like a Cam Boozer, I think it's Caleb Wilson, but get one of those two guys, especially as Siakam ages, and then they can kind of slot in to Siakam's spot after he kind of retires or he starts to slow down a little bit. But I don't know, that to me more and more is starting to make more sense, even though I hate seeing us lose and I hate watching games where we're not even competitive or we're not giving effort out there. But it's a tough line to toe, in my opinion. It's a hard decision to make. And that's why I just thought it was so weird we didn't play TJ the rest of the game against the Cavs because he was looking good. But then I heard on Tony East's podcast, Locked On Pacers, that I guess he had a little aggravation in his legs or his hamstring during I guess during the game at one point. So they just decided to sit him the rest of the game and play it safe to make sure that he wasn't going to re-injure it. I don't know. Sometimes it seems like to me like, are we sure? I mean, obviously you don't want him to get hurt again, so I'm all for that, but are we sure we're not just kind of sitting guys out on purpose too to hopefully lose a game? I mean, we definitely needed TJ last night against the Cavs. I mean, he would have brought back so much energy to this team that we were lacking for pretty much the entire game. And TJ's just one of those guys that can uplift the energy on a team in a heartbeat. And you need those kind of guys. And we could have really used them last night. I get it. It's better to not risk injury and whatnot, but still, it would have been nice to see TJ actually playing. And just some of the lineups we were seeing out there. I talked about it last podcast, recapping the Cavs game, but I don't get like why we were playing Jeremiah Robinson Earl, Garrison Matthews, Isaiah Jackson, I think at one point. I don't know. It was like Shepard and Walker. It's such a strange lineup. And I was like, what are we trying to win? Like it was a lineup where we didn't have one of Matherin, Siakam, or Nimhard out there. So to me, that was like just suspicious in my opinion because I don't understand what we're really doing on that front because it just seems like we were trying to lose on purpose. And then we had Mitchell being guarded by Garrison Matthews. And I get it. He was already torching us anyways when Nimhard was on him, when Matherin was guarding him at times. I mean, different guys are trying, but like, what are we doing? It made no sense to me. And I don't know if it just kind of painted a picture in my head like, oh, like, I don't think we're even trying to win. I think we're purposely trying to lose. And maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just what I saw and I'm just overthinking it. But and maybe they had their own reasons for doing those sort of things. It just was very odd decisions that there was no way that would happen last year with some of those decisions. So I don't know. I guess what we can look forward to is the development, like I said. And like I said, the ceiling, that's the ceiling to me, guys. I don't see it getting any better than that. And even if we do make the ninth or 10th seed, we're still going to get a high draft pick, a top 14 pick. But as there's still going to be some talent in that range, it's not going to be as good. I can't remember who was mocked around there. The least and recent mock drafts around that 9 to 12 range, where let's say if we did make the play in and we lost and whatnot, where we would be picking in that range. I think there's a big man from Kentucky that we can maybe take a shot on if we're looking for a center. I think he's only 6'9" or something like that, but apparently he's supposed to be a huge defensive presence, so that's a guy we could possibly need. But I don't know if that's obviously we would take maybe someone like that if we end up with one of those picks and a high upside guy. I don't know. It's obviously vastly different from a top 3 pick, especially in this draft. So I think that's just something we got to really consider. And it's a tough decision, of course. And I don't know which way they're going to want to go. This is just where my mood's at right now in terms of like what I see with this ceiling for this season as a team right now. And to be 4-17, I don't think any of us would ever predicted that. I think we all maybe I was over ambitious with the team before coming into this season where I was like, hey, everybody's healthy. So I'm assuming everybody's healthy at this point. This was even before TJ gets hurt in the preseason and all that. But I was like, hey, like we could be battling for a 6 seed. I really thought we could have been right there in the 6 seed range because yeah, we lost Tyrese, we lost Miles, but I thought we had enough talent still to at least battle for a position there. And obviously, I couldn't have predicted all the injuries. I don't think anybody obviously could. I didn't expect Jarris Walker to fall off a cliff, Ben Shepherd to fall off a cliff. Then, like I said, all the other injuries. I just expected higher things from Walker and Shepherd too on the developmental front. And I get they're being taxed to do a lot more, but it's just been very discouraging. And that's why I'm kind of really hoping that Johnny Furphy comes back soon because he's at least another guy I'd be excited to see out on the court and really see more of his potential. And I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up taking some minutes from guys like Shepard. And I know Shepard had to get the best plus minus in the game last night, but he still didn't hit a single shot. And at this point, I think it's worth a shot. I know Rick Carlisle loves him. He's got a lot of athleticism. Theoretically could shoot. We just haven't fully seen it yet. He hasn't got the opportunity, but he's got defensive chops. I think he could be a solid defender. He just needs that opportunity to grow, and he can get out in transition. He's a pretty good rebounder. He's 6'9". I mean, I just think, why not? Why not play this guy? Give him 20 minutes a game, in my opinion, at this point, and just see what he can develop and turn into. I mean, maybe he could be a key 3 and D type of piece for us that can get out and run and rebound too. Be a solid rotation player that you can rely on, especially for that contract. Like those guys are going to be crucial to find, as especially as we start paying guys. Those guys that are barely making enough money, but that are clearly outperforming those contracts. I mean that would be a huge find, and I think we do believe in Furphy in that front. That's why on the Shepherd front, I hope Shepherd could turn it around, but he's lucky that Furphy's been hurt this whole time. Honestly, in my opinion, because I think at this point Furphy would already surpass him in the rotation. Just my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong too. And then I still want to see what Cam Jones can do when he comes back. At least see him on the court a little bit if he's going to play. I'd assume he would. Whenever he's healthy, I don't know what they would even do. I'm sure they want to see what he's capable of. I mean, I think we all want to. So even just that little added wrinkle of trying to see what Cam Jones can bring. He was a 4-year college guy, so he should be ready to play now, you would think. So I'm just trying to pick out some silver linings to hopefully look at and see. As like I said, this is my mood right now, Pacer Nation. This is kind of what I see the ceiling as for our team for the rest of this year, and drastically different from what I expected coming into this season. And I think we just got to be real with ourselves at this point and just see, like, hey, like if we could push for a ninth and 10th seed, I think that's kind of where our ceiling is as a team. But we have areas we can improve on. That when guys get healthy and whatnot, I think those are going to improve. Like I think the offensive rating will go up. I do think the defense will improve. Obviously, once Neesmith comes back too, and getting guys like Furphy and maybe like a Cam Jones back, so the guys like Harrison Matthews don't have to play anymore. I mean, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, he's been okay, but get to where he doesn't have to play anymore. And you get guys that are more actual NBA rotation guys, or that you hope to be rotation guys, or they're at least young guys you want to see develop. So that would make a lot of sense. But yeah, I mean, I'm just starting to get to the point where maybe it makes sense for us to go tank mode and just really bottom out this year. I mean, we're tied with the Wizards right now, like I said, for the last spot in the Eastern Conference. We still have a bottom 3 to 4 record in the NBA. I think the Pelicans are like 3-17, so they're worse than us. And then the Wizards, and then it's us. I'm pretty sure after that. So at this point, we're 21 games in. Granted, I know we made the finals after starting 10-15 last year, but obviously a completely different scenario this year. And I think this year could really define our team for the next 5+ years, depending on what direction this goes. And if we're able to land a top 3 pick for the first time in who knows how long, it could really set our team up for success for the next 5+ years. I mean, is that something you risk throwing away at a shot at that kind of opportunity for, let's say, a ninth or 10th seed? I don't know. I mean, I know you're not going to get the guys on board with that, but I think it's just a tough proposition to pass up on. And I get more and more comfortable with that idea every loss we have. But I know we're going to have an easier stretch coming up after the Nuggets game Wednesday. So maybe we're going to rattle off some wins and my mind might change then, but I still don't see us really getting past that level. And I would love to see this team prove me wrong. But like I said, maybe it's just one of those years we take advantage of that opportunity. And the fact that we were able to somehow trade for our pick back before Tyrese got hurt, all this stuff transpired, all these injuries happened. And maybe it was just aligned for us to finally get, hopefully, our first number 1 pick in franchise history. And then you take a guy like like the guy from Kansas, and or the guy, Cam Boozer, one of those two, and that would be franchise altering. And that just seems way too enticing at this point. But maybe that's just my mood right now, especially after watching that game against the Cavaliers last night. But I would love to know what you guys think. You could always follow the podcast at Pacer Pulse Podcast on Instagram, on YouTube, and I try to post videos about little clips highlighting the podcast. So if you ever want to comment on there, give me your thoughts. I'd always welcome it. Love to talk to you guys about it and really just have a conversation about it. Talk to fellow fans and see what they're thinking too. Be really interested to hear what you guys have to say too. And if you listen to this, if you've been listening to the podcast, I really appreciate you guys. But like I said, my mood right now for this team and what the ceiling is for this season is at best ninth or 10th seed. And I'm questioning whether that's even worth pursuing or not at this point. And if we should just go tank mode, get a top 3 pick, and be loaded up for next year. But that's where I'm at right now, Pacer Nation. That could very well change in the next couple weeks. We're just going to have to see. We're going to have to see what this team's capable of turning the ship around, possibly. But I really appreciate you listening, guys. And I will talk to you soon, Pacer Nation.